Okay, cool. We should be live now, and we have Courtney Swain with us.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Courtney, thanks so much for joining. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Anthony.
Yeah, of course. It's been a while since we've chatted, and I know you've done a whole bunch of stuff, but you've also done some cool stuff away from computers, and I want to hear some about that as a musician, refraining from social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought we would start out with this new release of yours called All Around Me. Can you give us a little bit of context for that?
Yeah. Adam Neely of YouTube fame asked me to be a part of one of his videos, which is really awesome. And he's been doing a scale challenge series where he just asks people to write a song in a mode that is with an assignment that's outside of the sort of the traditional Western idea of what that mode is supposed to sound like. So we were supposed to write a happy Phrygian song, and yeah, this is kind of my little attempt at taking something that has a what we think is a dark sound and making something a little happier.
All right, cool. Let's take a listen.
Go.
All right, that was really beautiful, and I've watched this video several times. It's one of those things that's so perfectly short that you want to keep playing it over and over again, which I actually love about short songs. That you want to keep reliving it, and you don't really get
Mm-hmm.
sick of it. Tell us a
Yeah.
little about this composition.
Yeah, so this is highlighting a lot of my recent interests. I'll just kind of list them randomly, but I've been really interested in different vocal textures and singing softer because a lot of my output is like very loud belting kind of stuff. I've been really interested in Eurorack. So a lot of the synths are and synthy sounds are built from a Eurorack. Um, I got this really cool plugin recently, which is very cheap and very cool, which is called Sketch Cassette, which creates a bit of like a lo-fi sound. It has like a cassette warble kind of thing. So that's one of the effects in there, mainly on the piano that's doing the ding ding kind of sound. And I played bass on it, which is awesome. I've started playing bass this year and really excited about it. So it's just kind of all the things that I'm excited about right now. And yeah, I also have been really into short songs as well. Um, I just think they're really surprisingly refreshing. And I've gotten a lot of requests for extended version, which I kind of want to do as well. I was one of my musical heroes is Moses Sumney, and on his album called Aromanticism, there's a really short but amazing track called Make Out in My Car, and so many people ask him to extend it that he did an extended version, and then had other people cover it, like Sufjan Stevens, and created this wonderful EP. So I really want to do something like that, just kind of on the docket. But yeah, that's that song.
That's really cool. What about animation? Who made this video?
Yeah, yeah, that was my first attempt at an animation. It's kind of a hybrid process. A lot of the really cool visuals are coming from a video synth called IZ by a company called Critter and Guitari. I use their organelle. It's like this is the organelle, which is a Linux computer, and so it can audio process as well as create synths and samplers. I use this a lot for my creative process, but they kickstarted and created this video synth, which is a open source Python, yeah, like a visual generator that responds to audio signals and MIDI signals. So I jammed on the IZ, which was very fun, and captured that onto, video files, and paired that with some text animation that I was doing using a couple programs on my iPad. Yeah, very fun.
You're going to need to share more about that. That sounds so cool. Like, how does this little device work?
Um, well, let's see. Cool. It's very small. It's like a wee little thing. And it's got HDMI out and a video out, and the inputs are there's a 1/8 inch MIDI input and a 1/4 inch audio, a mono signal. So you can scroll through different presets, and these dials will sort of change like some of the parameters of how things are behaving. Like one's the background color, one's the color scheme of the lines and the little things moving around. It is so much fun to play because it feels like an instrument. You have to figure out kind of like a screen setup for yourself, and also if you want to use it for video, you need like a capture card of some sort. But it's beautiful. I love it. I want to team up with someone who is familiar in Pygame, so I can maybe alter some of the patches or build some custom patches because it's completely open source. Very fun.
So that little orange box is an instrument as well as a video generator?
No, it doesn't make sound. It just generates visuals. But yeah, it's called a IZEYESY. Oh yeah, there's a little, you can see kind of in the corner there. Critter and organelle, IZ.
So the buttons on the front are just sort of like video changes that you can make?
Yeah. So one of them scrolls through presets, and then one set scrolls through presets, and these two scroll through. You can save your scene. So if you find a preset you like, you save it, and then you can cycle through your the ones you like, and then this one will actually take a screenshot of whatever is happening. So then you can pull the screenshots off of it. There's like a little Wi-Fi connector. So you can talk to from your laptop cable free. It's just really cool. They're a really cool company.
That is awesome. And what about that white box? It looked like it sort of had a keyboard, like a musical keyboard on it.
Yeah, so this is the Organelle M, which is the newer version. And one of the cool things, this one operates on battery. But this is actually a keyboard. There's a 2-octave keyboard up front. And then this is an aux switch, which kind of gives you different effects depending on what patch you're using. All the patches are created using a program called Pure Data, which is, again, open source. And if you're familiar with Max for Live, it's very similar to that, where it's like a graphic interface where you kind of patch things together. But yeah, and these are similar to the IZ. These 4 knobs are assigned depending on the patch and, create different things. Like if you're using a sampler, it might change where the sample begins, the sample duration, envelope and stuff. Or a patch that I use a lot with Bentley stuff in my general playing is called a granular freezer. So it's basically a granular delay. So you might be controlling the wet dry or the spread of the grains, stuff like that. But this is also, like I said, this is a Linux computer, so the operating software is in this little micro SD card here. And if you hook up HDMI, like a screen and a keyboard, you can actually talk to it. Like this itself is a computer. And again, you can link up with it via Wi-Fi. Like I create in Live, Ableton Live, so I can I can link my organelle to Live itself. It's just they're a really cool company.
This is like the coolest thing I've seen in in months.
I'm telling you, these things are such amazing creative tools. I make so much music. I just turn this on, and it's like until you get a hang of the flex menu. So when you press this, there's like a flex menu that appears. And until you get a hang of that, it's a little bit confusing at first, but they have these really cute and amazing videos for each patch that they develop. So sometimes my creative process will be, okay, I'm gonna learn a new patch. So I'll go watch a video for 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'll start making sounds with this. And then that's where my ideas will start rolling, and I'll just write something from there. So yeah.
Do you start with sort of pads and textures with these devices, or are you like recording your vocal tracks live as well? You know, is it sort of a holistic experience recording at the same time, or are you kind of like filtering through and finding stuff you like later and then adding tracks to it?
That is an interesting question. I feel like I get asked about the order of things a lot, and I never really know. But a lot of times I've been interested in trying to move my creative process off of my computer as much as possible, because I get really stuck scrolling through presets for sounds, or presets for effects, and which is why I've been working a lot with my Eurorack and my organelle, which are very physical and tactile, and I just kind of go with the flow instead of getting stuck in the minutia. So I'll go as far as I can in terms of just jamming and generating ideas, and then when I start to sort of, when I can't avoid arranging, or sort of like, or multi-tracking, I'll move to my DAW, and then I'll start sort of putting things into a grid, or moving things, or layering things and cleaning things up. But it's a very frantic and fast-paced situation for me.
Well, that's super cool. And it's interesting to hear about your experience with open source software and Python and Linux. I'm a software person. I've spent the last 20 years like as a software leader, as they say, running teams, and when you guys stayed over here a couple years ago, I was talking a little bit to Ben about his animation stuff, and he mentioned that he was doing a lot of .NET programming, which I found interesting. Is this sort of like, is this programming technology stuff happening across Bent Knee? Is it proliferating?
Well, I think it depends. Like, Ben is such an inspiring person, and I was talking to him the other day about my IZ and saying, oh, I'm looking for someone who can do Python, and he was like, oh, you should just go to Code Academy. You could probably learn to do it yourself.
Yeah.
But me personally, I'm very aware of my limited attention span, so I'm more looking for someone to work with. But a lot of the ideas that we're having right now, and like at this time, we're not really considering doing NFTs or anything. But when all that stuff was happening, I felt this dire need to connect with someone who is really into writing code or software, and who is as creative as we are with music on the software side, because music and technology, I feel like, are always so closely linked, and there's a lot of limitations that I certainly feel, not knowing that side of technology super well. I have all these ideas, but it's kind of hard to apply them. And like Bjork did the app album for Biophilia so many years ago, and I feel like Radiohead probably tried something similar. And it's easy to have that idea, but it's really difficult to execute that kind of album that lives on a medium that is more interactive rather than a static sort of, complete version of the music. So I think all of us in Bethany are really interested in the potential of having an album that is malleable or, like depending on the time of the day or time of the year, it sounds different. So I think that thus our big interest in technology and coding and stuff. We're not all Code Academy ing as we speak per se, but yeah.
Well, if there's a language to learn, Python is the one. Python is probably the friendliest and perhaps one of the best languages for anyone just looking to code anything. I mean, it's such a powerful language, and you can do so much with it. So if you do end up going that direction, I definitely recommend it.
Okay, cool. No, I believe you. Last time we talked, you were like, "Oh, you like Emily's de-evolution? You should check out Esperanza Spalding." And you weren't wrong. So you're like, "Go deeper." So if you say Python is the right way, I believe.
Okay, cool, cool. Yeah, so another issue with technology, I get so frustrated with technology, especially as someone in technology. And I got a computer science degree because I hated how frustrating it was to use a computer, and I just really wanted to fix it, be
Yeah.
able to do my own thing and have some control. And now I feel like, I don't know. I grew up with a Mac. I got one, or my dad was a computer salesman when I was a kid, and he brought home
No
a
way.
Mac when I was 2 years old. I learned how to write and read and do math on the Mac, and I also was writing music on the Mac when I was a little kid. And that was so exciting until maybe 2010. And I feel like in 2010, computers started really taking over the world and taking over our lives. And
Hmm.
even with recording music, it's really difficult to just make music without staring at a screen. And you spent a lot of time away from technology and the screens. Last time we spoke, you mentioned being off of social media. So could you talk a little about how you've been able to take a break from computers and more about this like movement away from the screen?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a big chunk, but I mean, I'll start from the result I think there's a lot of things that are working together, but I'm the happiest that I've been probably in my life, and my relationship with making music is the best that it's ever been. And I think that's not entirely because I've been offline, but the thing that happens when you're not on social media for a while is that when you go back on social media, it feels really intense. Uh, it's like the effects are just immediate, where, I think I was telling you last time we were on a phone call that I downloaded Instagram to promote like a live stream or something I was doing, and I had it on my phone for 2 days, and then I deleted it, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for like a week. It was really crazy. It just changes how I focus, and it changes how I feel about myself. And um, it's okay when, I mean, yeah, I can deal with it better when I'm in a good mental place, but sometimes I just go through waves of depression. And so when I'm already set up to feel bad about myself and I go on social media, it just really ruins it for me. Like my day, everything, my productivity. So I think having been off it for a while, I understand how it feels to be on it. So sometimes, especially with shows happening and kind of starting to, getting announced and stuff and more things happening and my own releases, I do have to go back on it sometimes. But now I feel like I have an option in my head where I don't even have Instagram on my phone, so I use Google Chrome to look at Instagram from my laptop. And I'll open my laptop and I'll be about to go to Instagram, and then I'll be like, you know what? Is this going to make me feel better? Not really. I'm just gonna go and work on music because I know that is something that actually makes me feel better. So, yeah, I think it's sort of, I feel like it's about like boundaries in a way. And sometimes I would set boundaries, like deadlines that were unreasonable for myself, but I felt were good for somebody else. I'm the person who's always 5 minutes late because I always try to say the earliest possible time I could be there. And then I can't be there because I have to take care of myself, like, like wash my face before I show up. And social media, I feel like, is letting go of social media, I think, is realizing that it's okay. Like, you don't have to be present in your friends' virtual lives 100% of the time. Like, you don't have to be like putting yourself out there 100% of the time. Like, there's other priorities that are more important that you can start to hang on to, and it makes your life kind of better. But
I totally agree, and it feels like it's almost like spoiler city when you put everything on social media, and then you see a friend you haven't seen in a long time, and it's, hey, so what's going on in your life, and you may talk about something, and then if they're like, oh yeah, I saw you post about that, it's kind of like, okay, then I won't talk to you about it at all.
I know that feeling. It just makes it hard because sometimes, like when we were on tour, I feel like my whole life is on Instagram. So I'm just like, I don't want to talk about me. Like, can we talk about you? Because I just feel like I'm like a petting zoo or something. Like my life is very transparent. But I'm really curious, what happened to you in 2010 that changed your impression of computers so much?
Well, I guess I feel like that 2010 is when social media really started taking off.
Mm.
And YouTube didn't exist until I think 2006 or 2007, but that's when Instagram was purchased for $1 billion, I think, and Facebook was really, I mean, the user accounts were just growing astronomically. And the company where I was working, we were looking at expanding globally. It was a huge company. We had 36,000 employees in something like 40
Wow.
countries. And I was deploying software and hardware to China and to Africa, and we're trying to get English language learning stuff going everywhere. And I feel like that's when the sort of mechanization of humanity really started. And computers went from, oh, this is so interesting and so fun, to, oh, this is where we live now. And this is the smartphone didn't exist really until something like 2008. I forget when the first iPhone came out, but everyone was
Yeah, I
laughing
remember
at the
that.
iPhone. But
Yeah, yeah.
now it's almost like, are you kidding? You don't have a smartphone, And my kids, like one of my kids is in 5th grade. She just
Oh,
finished fourth. Christine, you've met her, and
mm-hmm. Sweetheart.
her friends have phones. It's like, what is going on? Like, why would a kid need a phone? And now I'm looking at my kid, my oldest, Gabe, who's going into high school, and I'm like, sometimes it would be nice to be able to reach him, and I just feel like it's changing how we look at. Well, it's a big thing. I feel like society sets us up to be in debt for decades and have recurring revenue. I'm constantly paying Netflix, T-Mobile, Apple for my stupid $2 storage because they don't give you enough for iCloud, and then Google Drive, I'm always running out of space. And
Yep. Dropbox.
right, yeah, and I'm like, I'm spending $120 here, $200 there,
Yeah.
$200 there, and it seems like this is just normal. This is the way it is, but
Mm.
I'm a little bit of a rebel, and I don't like someone setting me up to support their, I don't know, sort of like their quest to be wealthy.
Yeah.
And if it's me and hundreds of millions of me's who are basically putting these small amounts of money to them
Mm.
instead of toward my own future, I start getting a little disillusioned. And I felt like at my job at the time, that's kind of what we were doing. And then I moved on to a small company, and we were making websites for like $75,000 minimum, $150,000, $250,000 websites.
Mm.
And it's kind of
Wow.
like, what is going on? $250,000, like, if we could just pay off my house for the cost of this website. And it's not
Ah,
going away. It's not going down. And so for me, it's been a very interesting transition as a technologist. And I quit my full-time work altogether, and now I run my own company. It's me and my business partner. We don't want to grow. We don't want to expand. We just want to like be hunter-gatherers. Like she and I, we tag team on work, and it's just kind of like if we need money, we make money. And I feel like that's my own rebellion against all this. That was my like 5-7 minute soliloquy, I guess, on.
I love that. Well, I love where that ended up, where what you said about, you don't want to grow. I mean, I feel like that's kind of important in a way. I think about that a lot lately, where, one of the reasons I feel like I have a good relationship with music right now is because I feel like all my life I wanted something from it. And now I'm just happy to have it, you know. I'm
Right?
I'm
Have
just I'm
anything
just
from it.
yeah, I'm just happy to have it as a friend. And I think it's, you know, one thing that has been a theme in my life the last maybe 5 or 6 years that is that I've been trying to make space in my brain for two things to be true at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, okay, I don't want to entirely stop growing. Like, I don't want to entirely cut off social media. I don't want to just become, you know, a corpse basically. But I also don't want to hustle past a place where I'm comfortable. And I feel like that just like your little breaks, your rebellion of just being like, I'm happy here. I
Mm-hmm.
think is just so important because a lot of times there's this I listened to Thich Nhat Hanh, the Tibetan monk, speak once, and or it was like a not in person but it was like a
Mm-hmm.
video, and he was talking about how if you're thinking about what you're going to do next after you finish washing your dishes, you're not going to remember that either because you're always going to be thinking about what's happening next.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so powerful and such a really, such an important thing for us to all really think about in this really fast-paced life where a lot of things are boiled down to a headline or, a binary of one or the other,
Mm-hmm.
one's right, one's wrong kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean social media is bad for you, but social media is incredibly good for you too. Like
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without social media.
Absolutely not.
And so it's just kind of like it's a moderation exercise. Like I need to find the good and exploit the good, and I need to avoid the
Mm-hmm.
bad. But it is so hard when everything conditions you to, hey, you just released a song. Now you have to go promote it. Now you have to get the views. Now you have to get more likes and follows and all this stuff. And as great as it is that make word music is, I don't, it's probably grown 500% since our first interview.
You've been killing it, Anthony. Congrats on your book.
But yeah,
I
thank you.
watched you play the whole piece. It was so cool.
Oh, thank you. But it's kind of like I miss the small days where I knew everyone that followed, and where
Hmm.
it was just now it's kind of like it's not enough to just make something good. And in the corporate world, and this is partly my rebellion against work in general, it's not enough to make enough money. You have to make more
Hmm.
money. It's not enough to have this title that you sought for 5 or 10 years. Now it's when are you going to get promoted? You're not, you get your annual review, and it's like, well, you're not really growing. And I don't want to grow. I
Yeah.
like where I am, like let me just be. And I think as a musician, it's almost like when people say, hey, you're really good at sweeping the floor, right? Let's say you have a job, you're a janitorial person, custodian. You're really good at sweeping the floor. Why don't you run the team of people that sweeps the floor? Running a team is such a different skill than sweeping the floor, and yet as musicians, that's kind of what happens to us. It's like, hey,
Yeah, it's
your music's
the
incredible. Why don't you go on social media and become an online celebrity?
some people can do it, some people I don't know. It's just I totally feel that. It's like the whole, getting promoted to the point of your incompetence thing. Um and I also think about that in terms of how I make music where I, for probably 10 years, was obsessed with not repeating myself, which is a torturous place to put yourself in
Hmm.
because, when you start thinking about it like that, everything is a repetition. And this last year or so, I've been really aggressively thinking about like, oh, what if I do the same thing, you know? Like it was very inspiring when I first got my Eurorack. The thing about Eurorack is, you know, it's all analog, so you can't create the same sound ever again.
Right.
And so I made this sound that I really liked, and I had this thought in my head, and I just turned it off, and it turned it back on without touching anything. And it was slightly different because of, you know, the rise and fall of the pulses and stuff. The
Right.
sound was slightly different, and I was like, oh, wow, I should have recorded that other one because I like that one more. And also, that's really cool. Like, I'm doing exactly the same thing, but it's different.
It's
You know,
different.
if you weren't paying attention, it sounds like the same thing, but I'm paying attention and I'm like, oh, this is different. Like, this is
Yeah.
cool. I can do the same thing over and over, and it will always be different because every moment is different, and who's listening is different, and, you know, how I'm feeling is different. So,
Well, I did not expect us to spend so much time on this topic, but I'm glad we did.
me too.
So let's talk a little about your video, Fountainhead. It's
hmm
35 minutes, and well, you can just describe it.
So I do a RPM challenge like every couple years, and RPM challenge is somebody I think in Canada who just runs this website, and it's short for Record Production Month. And the idea is a call to musicians to write either 35 minutes or 10 songs, whichever comes first, in the month of February. Correction, sorry, it's to record it. So technically you can write it beforehand, but the idea, it's like more fun if you just try to cram it in. And it's just this exercise to sort of purge all your ideas. And when you're writing for that long, you kind of find your own habits, and then you're like, oh, what if I tried this? You know, you become really familiar with the process, and it forces you to sort of develop like something different, or, you know, just kind of, it's just really fun. It's just an incredible exercise. I try to recommend it to anyone who will listen. This year, I convinced a couple of my Patreons to try it with me, I was just so incredibly proud.
That's cool.
And so this year, I wanted to try something different, and I've wanted to make an ambient album or electronic album for a long time. I remember threatening to make this like maybe 3 or 4 years ago to one of my friends when I was having a conversation. And at the top of this year, I was awarded this really big grant from the Rhode Island Foundation. And I think it just made me feel different about my artistry. And I just have been feeling more confident, and like I have been seeing myself and my work really differently.
Hmm.
So I decided to go out on this limb, where I got a tape machine, a cassette 4-track, a Tascam 4-track that I've wanted to get for so long. And so I just started recording little snippets into that, from like little jams from my Eurorack or just little sounds. And it was just so fun. The whole time I was doing it, I felt like I was having the best time.
Hmm.
And my stretch goal was to create a visual piece to accompany it. And because I was working on cassette, there wasn't a ton of editing. I was just, you know, kind of creating sounds and then bouncing them into my DAW as stereo files. So there really wasn't much I could do once it was in the DAW. Actually, my good friend and mastering engineer Randy Roos did a lot to really enhance the sound at the end.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I went and I got this little GoPro, and I just walked around, just where I live and kind of Providence area, and it was just such a wonderful exercise because I started looking around me every time I would go on walks and think like, oh, this is beautiful. Oh, this is beautiful. You know, oh, this is beautiful. It was just like a huge mindfulness exercise where it was like, wow, I could film anything around me and it could be interesting. So, yeah, it's 35 minutes, and I just, you know, thought, well, this is either the best or the worst thing I've ever made, you know, in a lot of ways. But it was just really freeing and fun, and I was just surprised that some people were down to go there with me, you know. So yeah, it's cool.
And What sort of, like, your intention was just to produce, just to make, now that you have this grant, it's kind of like, I have the freedom.
Yeah, I think so. I forget what I was thinking. I just it was just RPM challenge really, and just this thing of trying something different for myself. Yeah, I think as the front person of a band, it's easy to kind of get stuck in this role, or this way that you see yourself. And so I've been trying to do things that are kind of weird, that I feel like are unique to me, or it's like really stuff that is is surprising. And the whole time I was making both the music and the visual component of Fountainhead, I felt like I was a baby artist. Like I felt like I did the first time I made my first solo album, where I felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and I was like, this might feel dumb
Hmm.
in like, 3 or 5 years, but it was just so much fun. And yeah, and so for me, I think what it was just an exercise mm, to create. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on your grant. I really want to encourage everyone to go turn on Fountainhead. There is a visual component to the album, which is on YouTube, and you can purchase it on Bandcamp. But just listening to it, I've listened to it just while working, and it's beautiful. And I want to close with Ripe. Tell us about Ripe, and I'd like to close with some of the footage from that video as well.
Yeah. So my mom is a contemporary dancer, and the last decade or two, she stepped away from dancing and became more of an administrator. But I have always wanted her to push her to be creative, because I feel very fulfilled and happy when I'm creating. Um, so, and I kept waiting for like an opportunity to, somebody to ask us, or a grant to come through. And I actually started working on this before my grant came through, because I applied for the grant saying, if I get this grant, I would like to do this with my mom. And then I was like, you know what? Why am I waiting for the grant? Like,
Right.
I'll just do it. Like, I can figure it out in a way where, I can make the finances work even if I don't have the grant. So, it's a piece where myself, my friend and violinist Abby Swidler, and also my friend and drummer, sound designer, percussionist Kyle Harris, we all created these improvised pieces, and we kind of traded them with each other. So that we had 6 pieces that were around 3 minutes. And my mom and her 5 friends, who have known each other and have been dancing together since I was a toddler, so probably 20, 30 years.
Mm.
I sent it to them, and they all sort of improvised to the music in this beautiful nature around kind of the city I was born in. And it was all filmed by another excellent friend and a really wonderful filmmaker, Riki Nitabaru. And yeah, I'm very proud of this piece. It's really different. The music is weird, and it just feels like a little bit left field, and it really excites me. And I just also love that, to see my mom and her friends being creative, and also like older people. It's not just about young people or able-bodied people, or it's just anyone can just show up to a forest and just start making shit up. And and you look at that and you're just like, wow, this is beautiful. Yeah.
I love this video. I love that the dancers are, I don't know, I don't think anyone's under 60.
No.
I love that they're all older dancers, and the dancing is beautiful and the music is beautiful. It's almost like a horror film, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
There were times where I was like, I know that no one is going to jump out from behind a tree with a sword, but...
That's funny because I remember you said, "Wow, that was eerie almost." And I had another friend who watched Fountainhead, and he listened to it first and then he watched it and he was like, "Wow, that video was intense." And so I think depending on where your brain is when you watch some of these pieces, you're just kind of like, "Whoa, this is really uncomfortable." I find it very peaceful.
Yeah, yeah. So before we go, there are a couple of questions. Kay Witchman says, speaking of challenges, would you ever participate in something like making an album in 24 hours like Ben and Adam Neely have done?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be pretty insane.
Okay. Well, why were all members, this is from Chris McCoy, why were all members of Bent Knee in a rehearsal room together yesterday?
Ah, well, oh yeah, we just announced this, so I can tell you we're doing a live stream. It's gonna be like a telethon. We're raising funds for a secret project. Guess what? So that's gonna be on June 11th, which is next Friday from noon to 7 p.m. Eastern. And we're gonna play some music. We're gonna do some dumb stuff on Twitch. So that's gonna be, I think, a genuinely fun time. There's talk about all of us eating a habanero and then playing a song. So if that doesn't entice you, that entices me. It scares me, frankly. But stuff like that. That's why we were rehearsing.
Okay. William Carlotto asks, he said, Courtney made an amazing live version of Joga, I don't know how to say it, by Bjork. Does she think about making a studio recording of that version?
Oh, well, that's very nice. That's a pretty deep cut. I'm impressed that you found it on my YouTube. Yeah, I would like to make that one time. One of my good friends, Faye Fatum, she told me that that's actually one of her favorite Bjork songs. So I would, if it's just for her or just in general, I really want to make a cover album at some point. So maybe I'll include.
Excellent. Bert Hillhorst writes, I recently read that Bent Knee did some live film scoring about 10 years ago. Could you give some insight on this?
Yeah, so we haven't been improvising as much over the last years. We were doing some improvising in our rehearsals this last week or so, which was really nice. But we used to improvise a lot more. Especially when we were on tour on the West Coast, there's this guy who would host silent films and we would just go and play them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so some of it is maybe out there. It's kind of hard to put on YouTube because of the film rights, maybe. But yeah, maybe that's something we'll start doing again because that was super fun.
Cool. And so is new Bent Knee music in the somewhat near future, approximate future?
I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh boy. All right.
Oh boy.
And then I assume you're going to be hitting the road sometime soon too. So we can wait for an announcement about that.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Maybe.
No other questions. So let's close on some Ripe. Do you happen to know the minute mark where isn't it like shared musical concepts, or are you all playing together?
I think we're all playing together.
Oh,
mostly.
okay. Then I'm just going to go somewhere in the middle of this video and play a few minutes, and then we'll close out on it.
Perfect.
All right, cool. Everyone, please go to CourtneySwain.com to learn more about Courtney, CourtneySwain.bandcamp.com to go purchase her music, and Sharon Baker in the chat has been posting links to Courtney's YouTube and Twitch. I didn't know you had a Twitch, so I'm going to have to follow you there.
I'll stream tonight.
Oh, cool. And the Bent Knee website. So check out all of Courtney's stuff. We've also done a couple of interviews with Courtney in the past about her solo releases and unbelievable stuff. Like her solo music is just amazing. So please check it out.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yes. It's the truth. It's easy to tell the truth. All right, so let's take a listen to Ripe and watch some footage. Thanks again, Courtney.